Hello everyone, welcome to ServiceNow Mastery Series. Today in this video we are going to learn about data policies. So what is data policy? First I'll just show you where you can find the data policies. Come to your personal developer instance and write data policies. Then we will see what is data policies, what is the difference between UI policies and data policies, why data policies is used, in which condition we can use data policies, and everything related to data policies, right? So when you just come on your personal developer instance and on the menu bar, when you just type data policies, then data policies comes in front of you. So when you just click on new data policy, so there you can find table session is there, table option is there, in which you can choose any of the table like incident table, change management, service request, or any of the custom table which you have made. Next is inherit, reverse, false, active. So uh, we will see all these tabs one by one. But first comes into your mind, what is data policy? So let me just give you one example. So imagine saving an incident record that lacks a critical information like priority. So you can think of it, if the priority is missing in the incident table, so how can you just make the incidents according to the priority? How can you resolve those incidents? Because if priority is not there, then how you make sure that the tickets would be resolved into that order only, right? So causing it will cause a delay and confusion. And how do you prevent this scenario consistently across the forms? Or if import happens, like import set if happens, so then how can you just prevent this scenario? Or in the case of APIs as well, so ServiceNow data policies comes into picture if this kind of situation happens. So the data policy comes in action when there are 3 to 4 things, which is forms. It apply to import sets. Here it is written in front of you, right? It apply to import set. It apply to SOAP, right? Uses as a UI policy on client or on API on list, right? So basically data policy, if we are going to just to see what is the definition. So data policy applies to form. It applies to 4 of the things. Apply to forms, incident form, change requesters, or a problem recorder, service request. It apply to list. It apply to imports. It apply to APIs, which will ensure that consistent enforcement across all the channels. It set the fields as mandatory or read only without scripting, simplifying configuration. So if I just tell you about what is the data policy? So data policies are an essential feature for ensuring data integrity and consistency across all the platform. To ensure that data is consistent, data integrity happens, data policy comes into picture. They allow administrators to enforce rules on the data entered into the system regardless of the method of the data input, whether the data is coming from the form of UI, from API, or from import. Whatever the rules administrator have put on the data, so it will enforce the rules on the data as in the consistent manner. This the data policies can be used to enforce the data consistency based on some of the conditions. So basically, scripting is not there in data policy, as you can see. If I just also save it, for example, I choose a table as an incident. We'll also see into this video some of the real world scenarios as well. So if I just choose a table as incident, so the conditions it appears. But as you also see in UI policy, scripting is there, scripting tab is there, but we can't use the scripting in the UI policies as well. UI policy changes the form behavior on the client side, but a surprise is there in the data policy, which I'll let you know in few minutes. So first of all, you will have to save the data policy, and if you will save the data policy, so the script option is not there. In UI policy, you can explore script option also, but in data policy, it is strictly not there. Scripting option, so you can only see the conditions are there. Related links, convert this to UI policy. The data policy can be also converted to UI policy. Okay. Um, so the script is not there, data policy rules, because the option in UI policy is not there to convert it into data policy. I will show it to you. So as you can see, table, short description, order, script tab is also there. When to apply is there, but here in UI policy, it is not written to convert it into data policy, because UI policy only restrict it to form side, but data policy can be used at both the side. Yes, this is the interesting fact which I was sharing some few minutes ago, that there is a surprise. So surprises like data policy shares applies on both the side, that is on the form and on the server side. Click on. So data policies apply to only four of the things, which is, you can repeat it with me, that is on the form, on list, on imports, and on AP. Set the fields as mandatory or read only without scripting. It In the data policy, there is no function such as visible true or false. Only two of the function is there, and not the clear value field also. Only the two field is there, that is mandatory and read only. Next one is it apply the rules only when the specific conditions are met. So as you can see in front of you, the condition is there, and when you just click on the data policy, so you can see field name is there, and read only and mandatory option is only available in the conditions, in the actions. Then, unlike the UI policy, data policy executes server side and apply regardless of how the record is modified. So you can use data policy as a UI policy also, and on the server side as well. Okay, so this is the major advantage of data policy. As the UI policy only applies on the form side, but data policy applies universally on the server side as well, regardless of how the data is entered or updated. So now the question comes into your mind, such as like the UI policy examples we have seen is basically whenever we want to show any of the modification on the form side, that is if we want to make the any of the field mandatory or any of the field as read only or visible, then all these UI policies we can apply on form. But what are the real world application scenarios of data policies? So the scenario which comes into my mind is, first is we have already discussed it, like if incident in the incident management table. So if we ensure like the critical fields like priority and category are filled before saving an incident. For example, if the state is resolved, right, if the state is resolved, the resolution notes field become mandatory. So this is our critical fields. So we have to make sure that when the state is resolved, the resolution notes have to be mandatory. So that will be the data policy, because or if the basically the API happens, if the data, or if on the forms, if on the list, then you have to be sure that the resolution notes becomes field mandatory. And we have to make sure as well, like the category and priority, these two fields are also filled before saving an incident, because these two fields are very very important. So priority is very much important. Next is if uh, if to restrict the editing of the sensitive fields, like a salary or the social security number when viewed by other members. So in For example, suppose one customer, the scoped application is there, and into that custom application is there, and in that some of the social security number which you don't want to see to every of the users, only to the some specific like subject matter experts or stakeholders, you want to show that field to be visible to those members only. So you can make that a field as a data policy, right? So you can make the field a mandatory or a read only to only those members. So data policies enforce data consistency by setting mandatory or read-only. And UI policy logic only applies to data entered in the form. Developers cannot apply script to data policies. Benefits of the data policies like data consistency happen. It improves the automation for the better compliance. I'll give you example for these all of the benefits such as data consistency. It ensures the category field or the priority field is filled out on every incident record, so the data consistency is there. For improved automation means it automatically prevent the closure of the change record or the incident after the incident is resolved. So it improve the automation as well. For the better compliance means it restrict accessing to the financial data, which we have discussed it earlier 2 minutes ago. So restricting access to the non-financial data fields for non-authorized users. Right. So we have discussed all of these. Now it's a time to see what each field says. So the table field is, we have already discussed it, state the table on which the data policy is applied. Inherit means when selected, it will execute the data policy for the tables that extend the data policy table. Right? Reverse false means take the opposite action when the condition field evaluates false. So if this condition is not met, so it will make the condition opposite or action opposite. Take the opposite action when the condition field is not true. Active. Active means the data policy is active or not. Short description. Description, you already know. Conditions we can apply, you already know. Application field is already, which you can see on the top right corner. The application, that is global application or any other scoped application. Next is apply to import sets, which is very much common. So apply to import sets is, yeah, you can see apply to import sets, apply to SOAP, and use as a UI policy on client. So apply to import sets, when selected, the data policy applies to data imported with the system import set or web service import set. When you have done import set, then all these data policies can be imported. Next is apply to SOAP. If selected, the data policy applies to data imported with the SOAP web service. So, if you selected this data policy tick box, apply to SOAP, so it applies to data imported with the SOAP web service. Whatever the data which we have integrated in the ServiceNow, which we have provided in ServiceNow through the SOAP web service. So, that data policy uh, comes when the data gets imported. Next is use as a UI policy on the client. Whenever we selected this, the data policy applies dynamically on the form as well. Selecting use as a UI policy on the client allow users to see mandatory fields on the record before submitting on the form. So this is the use of the UI policy on a client. And below, when you just come, so you can also explore this option as convert as the data policy to UI policy, and the data policy rules you can apply it for. So today we have learned about the data policy. What is data policy? What are the benefits of using data policies? Next video, we will just go through what all the basically real world scenarios which we can use and apply data policies over them. So stay tuned with me. We meet in our next video, which is a data policy example practice. So till then, Bye bye. Just if you have any queries, then state it into the comment section and I'll surely address that comment. We'll meet in our next video. Till then, bye bye. Take care.